And the book of Exodus starts off where Joseph and his brothers, they came to Joseph because he was in a place of power in Egypt, and they went to him and they started, they settled in Egypt, started living with Joseph. And when Joseph had settled in, like his generation passed. But at the time, the Israelites were multiplying fast, and the Egyptians saw that as a threat. The Egyptians saw that as a threat because they were getting outnumbered by the Israelites. And once that happened, they started enslaving the Israelites, and then we got into the story of Moses, how he came about. He was in a basket. He went into the Nile River. How he was found by the Pharaoh's daughter, and how he was raised by his own mother in the Pharaoh's palace. And this is also a review. Moses, keep in mind, he always knew that he was an Israelite. So one day he sees an Israelite Egyptian soldier beating an Israelite, and he kills him, and he had to flee out of Egypt to Midian. And he starts an entire different life over there. And while he was living there, God reveals himself to him in the form of a burning bush. Once that happened, God told Moses to go back to Egypt to free his people, that he has heard the prayers of the Israelites. And Moses goes back, and God shows his glory, his power through the 7 plagues, right?
Yep.
The 7 plagues, right?
Yep.
The 10 plagues.
Yes.
All right, that was just to see if you guys are still with me. And he showed off his power and the glory through the 10 plagues. And the Pharaoh was a very reluctant and very stubborn man, so he wouldn't let his people go. But as we talked about last week, the last and final plague, which was the plague of the firstborn, that finally made him decide to let his people go, of the people of Israel go. And that last plague was it relates to us because that's something we still celebrate today, which was God told Moses to instruct the Israelites to have a feast, to have a good time, and make a sacrifice, and take the blood of the animal, place it on the door, place a sign on the door, so that once the angel of death comes, that he knows to pass over that door. And that's how Fasika came about, which means pass over. And God and the Pharaoh, once again, he changed his mind. He sends the Egyptians army after the Israelite people, and then they were caught in between the Red Sea and the army of Egypt behind them. And God once again shows off his power, shows off his glory by opening the Red Sea open and letting the Israelites cross and drowning the Egyptians. Later on in the book of Exodus, Moses receives the 10 Commandments out of Mount Sinai. And that's where we kind of left off last week. And just a little, I guess, side note that I should mention is that this is an introductory course. So we're going to start moving kind of faster now, because we're just taking out main things in the Bible. What I'm going to be doing for the Old Testament, taking out main things that we should absolutely know. I'm not going to go into depth of each story, each thing that happens. I'm not going to go spend 20-30 minutes on one thing that happens. It's just taking out the main points of each book. So with that being said, we are now in the book of Leviticus, the third book in the books of law. And in the book of Leviticus, that basically it's a book for laws. It's basically Moses telling the Israelites what they should be doing and how they should prepare themselves in order to get to the promised land. That's all the book of Leviticus is on. And it talks about, how the priest should be, ordained, how, why we shouldn't eat pork. And, it's things that still relate to us, how some of the things are set up over here in the church. Basically, all you need to know for the book of Leviticus is that it is a book of laws. It is Moses telling the people of Israel what they should be doing, what the laws God has instructed them to give on. And that is all, since this is an introductory course, that is all you need to know about the book of Leviticus. And, keep that in mind, because, it is something that might come up on the test. The next book is the book of Numbers. Now, in the book of Numbers, the people of Israel, they still traveling to the promised land. There's been like a long journey, but they still traveling. Now, some people start to doubt that if this is, if the promised land actually exists. They start to doubt whether, God has given them the promised land. Or is it actually there, or are they just wandering about for a long time? And when this happens, Moses, he sends 12 people to the promised land ahead of the people of Israel. Now he picks 12 people. Why? Because if you guys remember, Jacob's children, had how many children? 12 children, and those are the people that Joseph's brothers that lived in Egypt, and that's how the Israelites multiplied in Egypt. And each child had a tribe of his own. So he sent a leader from each tribe to the promised land and to see, what is happening, whether it's actually there, what is going on, and basically to give them an update of this so-called promised land God had promised them. And when they went, when the 12 people went and came back from the promised land, 10 of them came back with bad news. They were like, this promised land, we can never go into it. There's the people there are bigger than us, stronger than us. They said they even saw giants there. And there was no way they would enter that promised land and survive. But the two people, I said there was 12 people that were sent. 10 of them brought back to bad news. But 2 people, how many people?
2.
2 brought back good news. And those 2 people were Joshua and Caleb. He just tapped out. I think his name is Caleb. That's why he just did a little nudge. But Joshua and Caleb came back with good news. They said, yes, there's giants there. Yes, the people over there are stronger than us. But first of all, the land is good land. It's filled with honey, all the things we can live off of. But forget all that. We have God on our side. That's what Joshua and Caleb said. No matter what, how big the people are, they have the ultimate cheat because God was behind them. God was on their side. But the people, of course, they listened to the 10 people that brought back the 10 people that brought back the bad news. They believed, oh my God, we're gonna die. Why would God do this to us? Some went even as far as saying, it was better off to stay enslaved in Egypt. Now keep in mind what God has done to get the people of Israel, to get his children out of Egypt. And for them to go back and say that it was better for them to be enslaved. Just because, the people didn't, those 10 people brought back the bad news. Instead of listening to Caleb and Joshua, we said that no matter what, we have God on our side. They listened to the people that said, oh, there's nothing we can do. All we're gonna do is die. So when God saw this doubt, what he did was he sent them. He wandering off in the wilderness for 40 years. Rather than starting their journey to or finishing their journey to the promised land, this generation of the Israelites was sent to the wilderness, just wandering off for 40 years. Now, I say 40 years in generation because now the generation that has escaped from Egypt, everybody that escaped from Egypt, that generation has passed. And it is now time for the new generation of Israelites. And that leads us into the book of Deuteronomy. And in the book of before I say that, let me backtrack a little bit. that generation of the generation that escaped from Israel, that generation has passed. But during the time of the 40 years, I should mention that Moses, he was also banned from the promised land because he was disobedient towards God. That's a big point because Moses, he was the one that was supposed to lead the Israelites into the promised land. But he himself got banned because he was disobedient.
What did he do?
What he did was, you could find this in Numbers 20. Let me pull it up. And what happened was Moses told, God told, the people were thirsty, and God told Moses, this is, I'd rather read it because there's a lot of wording in it. And God tells him, hold on, Moses 12. Okay, basically what happened was God commanded Moses to speak, the people. Hold on. Okay, yeah, this is, and it says on Exodus 20, verse 7, and the Lord said to Moses, you and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock and satisfy the whole community and their livestock. That's what God commanded for Moses to do. It's Numbers 20, verse 7. And and it goes on chapter 9, and verse 9, it says, so Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. He said, listen, you rebels, he shouted. Must we bring you water from the water? Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out, and the entire community was filled, and they got water. But what's important is that Moses disrespected God. On the first, what God commanded was that he said he speaks onto the rocks. He speaks onto the rocks, and God was going to show his power. But what Moses did was he struck the rocks. And if you heard, he said, Moses says, must we, speaking of Aaron and himself, he said, must we bring you water? Rather than saying, must God, instead of asking God for water. So you guys get what Moses did wrong? Yeah, and it also, it's also bad because he gathered all the people of Israel, and it was done in such a public place, and it was kind of it's sinning in front of the Israelites. He did the complete, although the people got the water, it's not how God wanted it to be done. It's like simply the story of the forbidden fruit. Adam and Eve could have had any other fruit, could have had anything, but they wanted the one thing that God did not want them to do. Same thing with Moses. He told him to speak onto the rocks. But then what he did was he struck it, and water came out. And at the same time, he put his place in almost in the place of God. He said, must we bring you water? And if you look back, that's what Adam and Eve did. They didn't. When the serpent told them that the fruit makes them like God, that's when they ate it. They wanted to be like God. And in this sense, when Moses said, must we bring you water, he was putting himself in the position of God. So because of his disobedience for doing that, he was banned from the promised land. And again, that if you just read Numbers 20, you'll understand that story better. And then, where was that? Oh yeah, they were sent in the wilderness for wandering off in the wilderness for 40 years. So those 40 years passed, and the generation that like this exact people that made it out of Egypt had died. Only 3 people remained. Only 3 people from the original people that were freed from Egypt remained. And those 3 people was like, you could probably guess it, is Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Write that down. That's going to be something important you need to know. Like, everybody was just looking at me.
So, is it after the 40 years, everybody has died?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, their generation passed.
That's including Moses. Only 2 people walked into the promised land.
I'm not saying Moses walked into the promised land. I'm saying of the original people that were freed from. Yeah. Wait. What is your question?
Yeah, my question is just like literally their time passed. Yeah, but like they were like kids and the other people that walked in, like that went into the wilderness, right?
Yeah. So basically, it's like the generation passed. It's like if our parents and our like, let's say we're the Israelites and like we're kids and our parents were freed with us, right? Our parents are eventually gonna die because of age. 40 years passes.
So you're saying like the 3 people, there are other people alive, 3 people that are left from the that were
from the old generation. Yeah, are Moses, Caleb, and Joshua. Yeah. And yeah. Those are the 3 people that were only left from the original group that was freed from from Egypt. And that kind of transitions us into the book of Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy literally means second law. That's like the literal meaning of Deuteronomy, second law. And like basically in the book of Deuteronomy, what happens is Moses is giving the law again, but to the new generation of Israelites. Because the past was punished for what they've done. The past generation was punished for what they've done by getting sent off in the wilderness. Now Moses is like exaggerating how important it is for them to follow what God wants them to do. He is passing on the law to the new generation. And again, since this is Old Testament and we try to find a way to connect this back to our lives, you can easily you don't even have to go far. You can see it within the church. Our parents' generation messed up. Like the church was no longer about politics got involved and stuff. That's not what we want to get into. But we know that our the past generation has messed up. So our job is to learn about the true meaning of Christianity and fix the mistakes that the past generation has done. That's what Moses is trying to do. He's trying to fix what the past generation has done through the new generation. The first goal of the past generation is what? To get to the promised land. But because of all the doubt, because of all the disrespect they had for God, they were sent off in the wilderness. Now Moses' job is to make sure that doesn't happen to the new generation of Israelites. Their goal is now to get to the promised land, and he has to make sure they don't fail like their past generation did. You guys with me? So that's again, since this introductory course, like this is mostly the what you really need to know for the book of Deuteronomy. And at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses hands down his leadership. Moses was of old age. He passes down his leadership to Joshua, and then he blesses all the 12 tribes. And God shows Moses the promised land from far, but Moses never actually enters it. So he got to see the promised land. He just never got to go in it. And then Moses passes away. So that's an important part. Don't get that confused, because I know earlier I said Moses was banned from the promised land. He's still banned. He never got to get in. He just got to see it from afar. And that is what you need to know for Deuteronomy, and that wraps up the 5 books of laws. So now we've done Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those are the 5 books of law, and we've gone through those. And we're gonna start the books of history. And the book of history starts at Joshua, the guy, who is now the leader of the Israelites. And, like Moses chose him as a leader, and he handed down, I guess his leadership over to Joshua. Now, Joshua's job was, again, the same goal as Moses, to lead the Israelites to the promised land. So what happens is, when they got Joshua, he sends 2 spies to see the promised land. He sends over 2 spies to kind of, get a sense of where they're gonna, go into whatever. He sends 2 spies, and there was a prostitute by the name of Rahab, and she lets them in through the walls of Jericho. Like something I should mention about the wall of Jericho, like you guys know, like the Great Wall of China, right? That's like the big wall that we know right now. But the walls of Jericho was a huge wall. It was so big, like Rahab's home was within the wall. Like her house was within the wall. That's how she was able to, she sent a rope down, and the 2 spies were able to climb up and get into, somebody open the door. I'm sorry. But yeah, so the wall of Jericho is a giant wall. Just imagine like the Great Wall of China, like times 100. Just like it's a huge wall, and it surrounded the city of. That's exaggeration, man. Relax, like. And it was and it surrounded, like it was around the perimeters of the Jericho, and so those 2 spies went into Rahab, and she told them, like, if I hide you, you gotta make sure when you guys come in, because Rahab knew, like that God was with the Israelites. Even the people were scared that these people they heard what God was able to do with the freeing the Israelites out of the Egypt. They know of the 10 plagues. They know of how God opened the Red Sea to let the Israelites pass. So now, although these people, if you guys remember, were supposed to be big and giants, they know the power of God. They knew the Israelites have came this far. So when the leader had heard there were 2 spies, they sent out for them. But the Rahab, since she made a deal with the 2 spies that once you guys take over Jericho, you have to protect my family and I. She lied for them, and she told them, oh, the people, they came here. I didn't know where they were from, but they went about their way, and she sent them in the wrong direction while she was hiding them up in the roof. So what happens what happens now is that those spies go back, and then those spies go back, and then Joshua, he was getting ready to take action, and then he sees like a soldier of some sort, and he was like, "Are you one of my men, or are you one of theirs?" And the soldier told him, "I know I'm not one of you. Like I'm a soldier of God." And then quickly Joshua bowed down. And then again, if you guys remember, what did God tell Moses when he saw the burning bush? Huh?
Never mind.
No, say it.
I was like, take off your shoes because you're answering that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what that soldier told Joshua at this moment. Sorry, Brooke. Can you pass to my little brother? And it says that, and I'm trying to find a verse for you guys.
Chapter 5, verse 15.
Okay, I was right there. I had it. But yeah, chapter 5, verse 15 is it says that, you know, the commander of the Lord army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you stand is holy ground." And Joshua did as he was told. Now, and this soldier of the Lord also told Joshua how they're gonna go into the Jericho and take over. Now, like once the door was shut for Jericho, there was no means of entrance. So you know they needed a plan. So he told them, gather the priests and get the Ark of the Covenant, and your people will march around the city of Jericho 7 times for 7 days. So for the first, what they do is the first day, the priest had the Ark of the Covenant. They had their horns, and then they would just walk around the city of Jericho blowing the horns. And then they would go back to their camps. Second day, they did the same thing. Third day, same thing, so on, until the 7th day. Until the 7th day, he told them, this time don't only walk around once, but walk around 7 times around the city of Jericho. And they did as they were told. But he said, now on the 7th time, the priests are going to give you one long, they're going to blow their horn one long time. And when that happens, he said, tell your people to shout like to the top of their lungs. So the 6th time they went around, 7th time, the priest, keep in mind they have the Ark of the Covenant with them. And the priest, they gave that one long blow to the horn. And then Joshua instructed his people, all of them, to shout. And they did. And when they shouted, you know, again, God shows his power, God shows his glory. That great walls of Jericho fall. They just come down crumbling. And then they were just able to walk straight in and take over Jericho. So, yeah.
Who was the soldier?
What?
Like the soldier, like the messenger of God?
Yeah, it tells you in chapter 5, it said, I'm going to read it to you. It said that, it's chapter 5, verse 13, to go back. When Joshua was near the town of Jericho, he looked up, he saw a man standing in front of him with a sword in hand. And then he asked him, you know, are you one of us? Are you one of them? And the man responds, neither one. I'm a commander of the Lord's army. It's not a man. It was like an angel that appeared to him. So, what was that? Yeah, the walls of Jericho came crumbling down, and they were able just to walk in and then take over the city, just like how Joshua and Caleb had thought they would do, because they had God on their side. And you know, like this in the book of Joshua, like the Israelites get the promised land. They finally reached the promised land that they've been like traveling for the longest journey. They finally get that land. Now, in the book of Judges, to move on to the next one, they like the people are settled in the promised land. You know, they living a good life, but you know, since they got their promised land, they start forgetting about God. They forgot like who got them there. They forgot the God that brought them from Israel to this promised land, and all the trial and tribulation they've been through. They forgot about him. And so what this in the book of Judges, what happens is the Israelites, they would they would forget about God, like they completely forget that God has gotten them there, and then they would sin. And when they sin, God will appoint them a bad judge, like a mean judge, someone who they don't like.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
And then when they get that bad judge they don't want, they start, praying to God. They start worshiping God. They're like, God, we're sorry. God, please, give us a good judge once again. And then God will give them a good judge once again. And then, they will once again forget about God. So there was a cycle. Write this down. The cycle that the Israelites kind of followed in the book of Judges is the sin, rescue, worship, sin. Sin, rescue, worship, sin. And this cycle it occurred 16 times.
You said sin, rescue.
Sin, rescue, worship, sin.
Is this a cycle of what?
Sin.
No, I hear.
16 times.
Wait.
You said it's a cycle for.
This is a cycle of the judges they were appointed. So they would sin, right? And then they would get a bad judge. And they start worshiping to God. God, please save us. We need you. And then God would rescue them. And when they get rescued, they'll go back to sinning again. You understand? And this happened. It occurred 16 times. Now this is Old Testament, so we have to find a way to relate this back to us. So can anybody just could tell me how would this relate to us?
Like whenever everything's going well, like prayer kind of slows down, fasting is kind of lackadaisical. But then when stuff starts hitting the fan, it's like, oh man, God, please, like, help me out. Everything's going bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. We don't take the time to appreciate God for the good things He has done for us. But in times of trouble, man, He's the first thing we reach out for. Not only for worship, but also for blame. It's like, God, why would you do this to me? And then when we're really desperate, it's like, God, please, I need you. But when things are going great, it's like, yeah, I mean, I pray here and there. One Sunday, missing one Sunday wouldn't hurt. Believe it or not, although this was in the Old Testament, this is a cycle that still stands today. We sin, in times of trouble we worship. And God, a forgiving God He is, He will rescue us. And then once we get rescued, we go back to sinning again. This, like when I was making up this lesson plan, like I thought about like how just when kind of look at society, how so we've forgotten to appreciate the little things. Like right now the biggest thing out is the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. Everybody's like, oh, we gotta have it. Oh, the people are going crazy over it. But people don't appreciate the fact that, let alone the other things, that, they don't appreciate that they even have a cell phone. Something like that's related with me, like most of you seen the car I drive. Like